All right, let's talk about something that's totally changing the game for our digital lives here in India. It's called the Digital Personal Data Protection Act. And honestly, it's all about putting you back in the driver's seat when it comes to your own data. So let's dive in and break down what this really means. I mean, think about it for a second. How many times today have you just tapped agree on some app or website? We all do it, right? It's almost muscle memory. But every single time we're handing over a piece of our personal information. The real question is, where does it actually go? Who's using it? And for what exactly?
Well, for the longest time, those questions kind of just hung out in this big legal gray zone. But that's all changing. The Digital Personal Data Protection Act of 2023 is here, and it's basically the new rulebook. It's designed to give us clear answers, clear rights for us, and, this is the big one, clear responsibilities for the companies that handle our data.
So, in this explainer, we're going to get into the nitty-gritty. We'll look at who the key players are, what brand new rights you've got, and of course, the new rules that companies now have to play by.
Okay, so before we can really get into the rules of the game, we've got to meet the players. Think of it like a story with three main characters, all centered around your data.
First up, and this is the most important one, is the data principle. Sounds a bit formal, right? But it's simple. That's you. It's me. It's every single one of us whose data is being collected. This new law puts you right at the center of the story. You're the main character, the owner.
All right, next we have the data fiduciary. A simple way to think about this, it's the company. It's your bank, that food delivery app you love, your social media feed, any organization that decides why and how to use your data. The law now expects them to be like a guardian of your data, holding them to a much, much higher standard.
And rounding out our trio is the data processor. These are kind of like the behind-the-scenes helpers. So let's say your bank, that's the data fiduciary, uses a big cloud service to store all its customer files. Well, that cloud company is the data processor. They don't make the decisions, they just process the data based on what the fiduciary tells them to do.
Okay, now we get to the really good stuff. This act isn't just a list of don'ts for companies. Nope, it's a list of do's for you. It's all about your rights. Let's call them your new data superpowers. So, the single biggest game changer here is how consent works. You know the old way, right? Pages of confusing legal jargon, sneaky pre-ticked boxes. Well, that's out. Now a company has to ask for your consent in clear, plain language for one specific purpose. It has to be a real, conscious yes from you. And get this, it has to be just as easy to say no later on and take your consent back. And the Act gives a perfect example of this. Let's say a telemedicine app wants access to your phone's entire contact list to give you a consultation. Does it need your contacts for that? Absolutely not. So under the new law, that request for consent is no good. The bottom line is simple. They can only ask for data that is absolutely necessary for the service they're providing. That's it.
But it doesn't stop at consent. You get a whole new toolkit of rights. You now have the right to go to a company and say, hey, show me what data you have on me. You have the right to fix that data if it's wrong, or even get it erased completely. You also have the right to have your complaints properly heard. Oh, and you can even nominate someone to manage these rights for you if you're ever unable to.
So what happens if you have a problem? What if something goes wrong? Well, now there's a clear path. Step 1, you go directly to the company, the data fiduciary. They are now legally required to have a system in place just to listen to and solve your problems. And if you're not happy with what they say or do, that's when you go to step 2. You can take your case to the brand new Data Protection Board.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about your rights. Now let's flip the script and look at what this means for the companies. What are their new obligations?
Basically, companies now have to live by 4 golden rules. First, purpose limitation. They can only use your data for the exact reason they told you about and nothing else. Second, data minimization. They can't just hoover up all your data. They can only collect what's absolutely essential. Third, security. They have to actually protect your data from breaches. And fourth, erasure. When they're done using your data for that original purpose, they have to get rid of it. No more keeping it forever just in case.
But what happens when that security fails? What exactly is a personal data breach? Well, the law is super clear about this. It's pretty much any unauthorized action that messes with your data. Someone gets in who shouldn't, someone changes it, discloses it, or even deletes it. If it compromises your data, it's a breach.
And here's another huge change. If a breach does happen, companies can't just hide it anymore. They have a strict 2-step process they have to follow. First, they have to report it to the Data Protection Board. And second, and this is so important, they have to tell you, the person whose data was affected. That's right, no more secrets. Transparency is now the law.
Now, we've mentioned this board a couple of times. Let's talk about them. Think of them as the official referee in this whole new data protection game.
So, the Data Protection Board of India is basically the new sheriff in town. It's an independent body, and its entire job is to be a watchdog. They're the ones who will investigate complaints, look into data breaches, and here's the key, make sure everyone is playing by the rules by handing out penalties when they're not.
And when we talk about penalties, we're not talking about a slap on the wrist. I mean, look at this number. For a really serious violation like a company failing to protect your data properly, the fine can go all the way up to 250 crore rupees. This law definitely has teeth.
And it's not just one big penalty. The fines are specific to the offense. So failing to tell you about a data breach, that could cost a company up to 200 crore. Messing up when it comes to protecting children's data, that's another potential 200 crore fine. The message couldn't be clearer. Not following these rules is going to be incredibly costly.
So, when you put all of this together, what does it really mean for you? What's the big picture here? It's really simple. The balance of power is finally shifting.
You know, for years and years, the digital world has pretty much worked on a model where companies held all the power over our data. This act flips that on its head. It officially recognizes that your personal data belongs to you, and it gives you the legal tools to actually take control of it.
And that really brings us to the final and maybe most important question. This law, it's not just a piece of paper. It's a tool. It's a brand new rule book that gives you rights you never had before. So the real question for all of us is this. Now that we have the rules, how are we, as data principals, going to use these new rights to shape the future of digital India? Something to think about. Thanks for joining me.